The National Prosecuting Authority has issued a stark warning to sexual offenders following the landmark sentencing of convicted serial rapist Nkosinathi Phakathi. He was handed a 42 life sentence and nearly 800 additional years in prison. Phakathi was found guilty of multiple charges, including 43 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of compelling a minor to witness a sexual act, and 2 counts of sexual assault. We're going to be making sense of this with Professor Saths Cooper joining us now from the Pan-African Psychology Union. Prof, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. The crimes I described there are as gratuitous as it gets. It's, I think, emblematic of the deep-seated violence and hatred towards women and children that defines South African society. How do we undo that social psyche? But more importantly, how do we make sure that the sentencing of such a violent crimes, given the sheer amount of crimes that has happened, how do we ensure that that sentencing rings home to potential perpetrators the severity of their actions?
Well, that depends on media to a large extent, because if this is not publicized as a serious deterrent, then nothing will. And given that many people consume media socially, I would imagine that the SABC, as the national broadcaster, would be putting this out on all its platforms and on social media. That's the responsible thing to do. The background, you've aptly and correctly raised it in South Africa with, let me add, all its serious socioeconomic problems. There isn't social cohesion in our society, except for a few communities, probably of faith and in certain pursuits, maybe recreational, maybe in the world of work. But given that we have the highest recorded unemployment rates in the world and the lowest recorded employment rates per capita, that is an issue that requires serious intervention. You see, Oliver, we're going to come to December, and there's going to be this usual perennial call of 16 days, etc. The seriousness of this is so great that it impacts our girl children as, the ages of rape become increasingly lower. The witnessing of these acts also become increasingly lower in age. We have to change our educational system to be able to, in a sense, re-socialize the future. We need to do this in schools and other places, which we don't do. We end up blaming educators.
Seems like we don't have Prof. Saths Cooper there. We have a cut in connectivity. We'll try to make a reconnection with him in a short while. Let's take you to this now. Earlier on, I brought you the story about the National Prosecuting Authority having issued a stark warning to sexual offenders following the landmark sentencing of convicted serial rapist Nkosinathi Phakathi. He was sentenced to 800 additional years and 42 life sentences in prison. Phakathi was found guilty of multiple charges, including 43 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of compelling a minor to witness a sexual act, and 2 counts of sexual assault. I was in conversation earlier on with Professor Saths Cooper before the line had failed on us. But I do have Professor Cooper back on the line now. Prof, before the line had cut there, I'd ask you the question: what is the fundamental difference between the collective social psyche of South Africans and its delinquency that makes us so uniquely violent when you compare us to other countries in the world with similar histories of colonialism, imperialism, and separation, with similar histories and conditionalities of inequality and poverty, yet not so deeply violent to South Africa? What is that unique contributing factor here?
I think it's the immense violence with colonial conquest and its subsequent denouement of apartheid. The figures from that era continue to remain with us. In fact, they've just gotten worse. So we haven't dealt with that era in our past. We just moved from a completely total controlled society to a laissez-faire one, moving 180 degrees. We haven't dealt with the underpinnings of what impacts our society. We still don't deal with it, and in all areas of life, you'll find symptoms of what I'm talking about and what you're raising, hitting you in the face. When you least expect it, it will happen. Our education system is woefully inadequate to deal with this. We haven't changed our approach to actually having a system that socializes young people better.
Yeah. Prof. Cooper, thank you so much for your insights and thank you so much for your time. My apologies for the connectivity there that has failed us earlier, but certainly enjoy talking to you.